Welcome back to my channel. I'm trying to get more into the world of motorsport rather than just modifying cars for a less pleasant drive to work, although a cooler looking drive to work. So as I do more cool stuff, I'm going to try and film it and put it on here. To kick that off, a couple of weeks ago me and my mate Bailey went to Team Sport Karting in Sheffield, and the goal for the session was to set a sub 1 minute lap, which neither of us have done before, probably because our last couple of sessions had lots of kids and lots of slow drivers that caused a bunch of red flags and just generally got in the way of hot lapping and trying to beat our own best times. Last minute we booked a Saturday night 3 for 2 session, and we both paid an extra £8 for Team Sport's cameras. Unfortunately for Bailey, his keeps getting pointed at the floor, so his camera angle is not too good to watch. So to kick it off, here's my first lap. Kind of uneventful, kind of slow while I'm still learning the track. Going wide round here to try and get on the power early for the exit, then flat down here, and quite slow into the chicane actually, because I'm still trying to remember the track and get used to it again. I think at this point it had been a year since my last session here, or somewhere around that. Carrying decent speed up the slope. Can't really speed up those, the karts just don't have enough power. And then this is the really fast bit of the course, which you can do flat out or almost flat out. Bit hesitant on the brakes down the slope because the bit at the bottom really shakes the kart, and it's very counterintuitive to just launch yourself at it. Hairpin executed pretty cleanly. Not super fast this time round, but this kart really doesn't seem to have much grip on the brakes, in the corners. It's not particularly fast out of the corners either, so not the best combination. As we come to the finish of the first flying lap, now onto Bailey's cam, with its hilarious pointed at the floor angle, which really accentuates his extreme lank. I can't comment too much on his line because I can't see the next corner that's coming up anyway. But he does very quickly catch up to the kart in front to give us the first bit of overtaking action for the session. The number 2 kart doesn't carry much speed up the hill, bit of a bump draft and round the inside for the next corner, then running wide to get a nicer line and some decent speed up for the second left-hander at the top of the ramp. Really smooth and gripped up round that hairpin, which is a bit different to how I normally do it, but certainly not slow. Jumping straight to my second lap where things start to get interesting. This is the first time I saw another driver this session, and I'm quickly catching them up both in the straights and in the corners. And it turns out this is actually the number 2 kart again that Bailey just passed on his previous lap. So by the look and sound of it, they are pretty much off the throttle round half the track, staying in the middle and jerking the steering wheel when they get to corners. As a result, probably the easiest pass in the world though, around this top section, which you can do flat out, and you can normally just lift down the ramp, and then you only really have to brake for the next few corners. Got the back end out a bit around this hairpin at the bottom, but it was pretty tidy. This kart wasn't great around the corners in terms of grip or even being able to put the power down getting out of the corners. So I'm relatively happy with the second half of this lap, even if I wasn't carrying much speed due to the first half. Bailey had a pretty uneventful second lap, so skipping straight to my third, where I'm getting a bit more confident now with the track. Nice line through that bit, and really getting the line down on the chicane now. Running wide out of the chicane to try and keep some speed for this next bit. If you go narrow around the chicane you actually have to brake a bit. And finally going really flat around this top bit, a bit more confident with the slope, although still a bit of brake I think. And a really nice line through there. And this is pretty much a textbook lap for how the rest of the session goes, apart from losing the back of the kart a bit on the exit to the hairpin, which definitely slowed down my time. Still though, nearly 4 seconds faster than the lap before, stuck behind the number 2 kart. Now jumping forward again to Bailey's view of his 5th lap. On the 4th lap he caught up to another car, but unfortunately they were off screen the whole time because of his wonky helmet. Bit of a battle here to get round the rather erratic number 11 cart that doesn't seem to stick to a consistent line. He loses the back end of the cart, taps the wall, and Bailey manages to make it happen on the way up the hill. At this point Bailey effectively serves a cappuccino to the number 11 car, then tries to backhand a ghost and then twiddles his thumbs up the rest of the ramp, because you've got to keep yourself entertained somehow on those long straights. And we're sticking with Bailey for another lap actually, with some pure action coming up that we don't want to miss. And right after a slightly slower lap stuck behind that other car, this is actually going to be his fastest lap of the session. Not his fastest lap of the day, but certainly not far off. Really smooth, he's using the whole track, and then going a bit crazy with his wrists again on the ramp, giving his nose a little pick. Carrying all that speed from the top section down to the bottom of the ramp, and then tucking it in nicely in all the right places through that little S-bend and the hairpin. Now, don't blink because you might miss it, but just off the camera there are 2 carts, one of which goes very wide and gets flown past, and the other's actually setting decent times by the looks of it. I doubt go-karts have the right aerodynamics to give each other a tow up the straight, but you'd certainly be getting one right now if they did. And despite the traffic, that gives Bailey his fastest time of the session of a 1:00.005, just shy of getting the 59 that he was aiming for. Now onto my lap number 8, once again lapping the number 2 car. Checking back there to see if I cut him off or caused him any inconvenience, because I did fly super wide out of that, but he was thankfully far enough behind that that wasn't an issue. And then the rest of this lap goes pretty clean, and is just spent chasing down this next cart basically, who I don't think I reached before the end of the lap. Once again getting more confident with the slope, getting absolutely hammered by G-forces flattening out at the bottom there. And just constantly inching towards this car in the distance as we come towards the end of the lap. And then following on straight away with my next lap, are we going to catch the number 20 car that is now just out of harm's reach? A bit slow out of the chicane, but decent speed around the hairpin, definitely catching him up the ramp, which really gives us the speed we need to get round them on the way down the ramp, taking the inside line, which they really left open by running super wide and also super slow. No hassle to just keep it tucked in around there, give them the room and put some more distance between us. Again, checking the shoulder to see how far behind they are in case I'm holding them up, but that's definitely not the case here. And another lap down. So the reason I've not shown Bailey for a few laps now is because he's been stuck behind this one cart just off the screen for 3 laps or so, and he finally gets to make his way past when they decide to have a little scrap and one gets pushed wide. And now it's just Bailey and the cart in front having a little battle. Bailey's catching up the straight, takes a wider line around the top than the cart in front, giving him a bit more speed at the bottom, but just can't make the pass before the chicane. And once again ends up stuck following another cart around the track for a couple of laps. to a more interesting lap now. I'm back on the chase for karts that are just out of view, a couple of corners in front, which seems to be the theme with this session. The field's very spread out, but making constant progress on the kart in front. At least a second a lap normally, as they just pop into view coming up the ramp. Gaining tons of time down the ramp, because most people take it way too slow, just because of the pure fear that it induces. And we get into a weird situation after the hairpin. The kart on the left carries basically no speed out of the hairpin and gets double overtook. I keep it narrow to avoid cutting them off, and finishing the lap one place further up, but with someone else to chase. And now on to Bailey's 11th lap. Starting it off with some interesting contact from the kart behind, who is in his own full blue Sparco racing suit, not a rental from Team Sport, so you know he means business. I believe he was one of the top 3 fastest karts of the session. So, of course, if someone caught up to you at all, that means they're going faster than you. Overall, faster lap times, so Bailey does the right thing, waves him past, which doesn't happen often in these sessions. I don't think people realise sort of how it works. For example, the person I caught up to on my 11th lap was lapping consistently a second lower according to the leaderboards on the app. And the fact that, you know, over the course of the race I caught up and then just got stuck behind her and she never moved. Quite frustrating, really. As we go into the 12th lap, that's pretty much what this is going to be. Following her, slamming on the brakes mid-corner because she's sort of taking the geometric line, not the ideal line for each corner. So, you know, not going deep enough into hairpins, skid in like that. And then just not looking, cutting me off and getting me passed by this other guy, who thankfully was pretty quick anyway, and would have passed me very soon regardless. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for the end of the session. Straight into the pits as the checkered flag comes out. However, we do still have one more lap of Bailey's to get through, and it's going to be a spicy one to finish us off. So straight away as we come into this one, you see another kart at the top of the screen, and in no time at all he's going to catch up to them. They might be slowed down by another driver at this point, because they really do fly up pretty quick. So there they are now. Bailey goes wide, they go very narrow, and seems to just let him pass there. Takes the outside round the hairpin, casts a magical spell with his right hand on the way up the ramp, and then these guys are having a hell of a time at the top of the ramp. You can hear the brakes squeal on the way down the ramp as he has to avoid a collision there. Then they get caught up on each other again into the next corner, causing Bailey to make a bit of contact. Pretty easily passes one of them on the inside though, followed by his signature gang signs on the way up the ramp. And then that's pretty much it for the action this lap. I'll leave you with the rest of it. If you enjoy this karting content, I have another video that I need to edit from the second session of this day. Some interesting stuff in that one as well. So yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatever it is people do on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.